Alright, hello. For almost 30 years there's been a wiggly battle of garden warfare between factions of psychopathic worms, first bursting onto the scene quite literally in 1995 with the release of Worms. However, I believe the series peaked with the release of Worms Armageddon in 1999 and Worms World Party in 2001. So I'll be looking at some of the wackiest and downright weirdest weapons you'll find in those games. From exploding sheep to holy hand grenades, there's just no end to what worms will use to wipe out their foes. Starting with... The iconic Bazooka deserves its own category. It's the most used weapon in the game. It's the weapon you begin wielding at the start of every turn. Its power and ease of use make it an ideal weapon for any purpose. It's also very satisfying to pull off a trick shot using the assistance of wind. Being able to bend a bazooka and hit its target makes it a very important weapon to learn.
Here's a little something for you.
Do you ever get the urge to chuck a bomb at a worm? Well, luckily there is many weapons to choose from. The basic grenade is simple and effective, although not overly damaging. There is the useless cluster grenade, which I don't believe I've ever used effectively. Or maybe you prefer making sure your enemies get one of their 5 a day by chucking them a lovely healthy banana. Only difference is these bananas explode, and each subsequent banana, rather than giving you a burst of flavour, it'll quite literally burst your brains out. One of the most powerful weapons in the game also has a super version, which allows you to choose when you want to explode the bananas. If none of these take your fancy, then maybe some divine intervention is needed on the battlefield. When times are tough, I seek guidance from above. No, I'm not talking about God, I'm talking about the holy hand grenade that's flying through the air. Once it lands, worms had better make a quick prayer, as they are more than likely to soar into the heavens.
Watch this! Look out! Ow!
These worms are not afraid to get their hands dirty. Do worms have hands? I mean, these worms have hands, but I don't think normal worms have hands. Sorry, I've been sidetracked. From the classic fire punch, which is perfect for knocking an enemy into the deep, along with its counterpart, the Dragon Ball. Or maybe you really want to rub it in and just prod your enemies off the cliff. On paper, it's the most harmless weapon that will deal 0 damage, yet if there's a worm right on the edge, why not just poke him off? The worm wars can also be a time for desperate measures. Some worms even resort to suicide, with weapons such as the Worm Blast and the Kamikaze, which used in the right circumstances can be very beneficial. Well, maybe not for the worm that's lost its life, but it is for the greater good. However, the most iconic weapon in this category is the baseball bat. Replacing the ball with a round head of the worm, you can smash them for a home run, hearing that iconic tune when you launch them out of the ground. Another way you can get up and personal is by placing an explosive right under a worm's bottom. Do worms no, we're not going into this. You have the classic TNT and mines, which are a staple. Or maybe you want to explode a piece of history by destroying a priceless Ming vase. All of these weapons have a fuse allowing you to get out of harm's way. Well, most of the time. Maybe warfare isn't really your thing, then you might enjoy some engineering weapons. These can be used to hide underground by digging holes, or you can build your own forts and bridges. The blowtorch and drill can be used as weapons, just in case you want to burn a worm's rear end. These are for the more strategic worms player, often referred to as dark side players, or more commonly known as cowards in layman's terms. A good way to get rid of the cowards is by sending in an airstrike. From the all-round classic airstrike to the fiery inferno of the napalm strike. These weapons are very useful if you have the aim of a worm that's just devoured your way through some fermented fruit. Some of the oddest and craziest weapons reside in these categories. From the carpet bombs using actual carpets, sheep strikes using actual sheeps on fire, and the most famous of all, the concrete donkey. The donkey will create a chasm destroying anything that gets in its path. Quite possibly my favourite weapon of all time in the Worms universe.
Come in, big bird!
For those over the pond in the USA, I know you love your guns. Don't worry, this game has you covered. The classic Uzi and minigun will send a burst of bullets at your enemies, often fling them into their watery graves. The shotgun allows you to fire twice, meaning you can use it very tactically. And then you have the handgun. Never had any use for it, but I suppose it exists. That's about all I can say. Possibly though, my favourite gun isn't really a gun, but well, a very old style of gun, the longbow. You can feel like Robin Hood as you pierce a worm's membrane. Do worms have membranes? Animal lovers, you may want to look away. This is war, and often wartime brings out the worst in worms, as they fire explosive sheep at each other, mole bombs, and smelly skunks. No animal is safe in this world. They are all utilised for the war effort. Even Grandma gets in on the action. And yes, Grandma is an animal. She will waddle her way down to the shops before exploding herself. Heartbreaking. Funny though.
Oh!
There are a couple of weapons that have potential to be the most devastating weapons in the game. From the ability to create an earthquake, to the nuclear bomb test that will leave every worm gasping for air and the land sinking beneath them. But the mother of all bombs is the Armageddon, only to be used when there is no other option. The Armageddon will rain bombs from all directions, leaving absolute destruction, and often no worms left to survive. The signature weapon from Worms Armageddon is a perfect way to end things. So there we go. That was a quick look at some of the weapons from the Worms games. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know some of your favourite weapons in the comments. But for now, take care and bye bye.
See ya!